Deep in the heart of darkness, one heart truly treasures the darkness. The African lungfish may need water to survive, but it has a foolproof method to survive the continent's frequent dry spells. If mucus and self-cannibalization are to your liking, you might find a kindred spirit in this floppy fellow here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Welcome to Life, Death, and Taxonomy. It's your 30 minutes of interesting animal information. I'm Joe.
And I'm Carlos.
Thank you to Cassie for the creation of our theme song. To hear more of Cassie's music, please search Cassie Michelle on YouTube or Spotify.
And thank you to Johanna for the creation of this week's artwork. To check that out, you can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at LD Taxonomy, or visit us at our home on the web at ldtaxonomy.com. And a very special thank you to our Patreons, Tristan Taylor, Jesse Raspulich, Carol Raspulich, and Paul Chomo. Why are you laughing?
There are Patreons. They are the website known as Patreons to us.
Patrons! Saints! Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for helping us keep the lights on. It's greatly appreciated.
And today we're talking about a fish that is built to live where fish should not live. But more
on
that
the
later.
moon.
Yes.
But what are we talking about? This is my animal.
We're talking.
This was a recommendation from my mom. She was like, "Hey, I read this article about this very cool fish. You should check it out." And I did. And now we're talking about it. So thanks, Mom.
Well, speaking of this fish, we're talking about the West African lungfish.
It's also known as the Tana lungfish. Not sure exactly where that comes from. That's the it's not scientific, it's a colloquial name, but we're gonna call it here
A colloquial name.
the Darth Aestivator. The Rip Van Sprinkle Some Water on Me Please, I'm a fish and I'm dying. And the Slimy Slide. How long can I slide?
I don't know this reference.
You don't know that song?
No.
Slide? By
No.
the Chili Peppers?
No. Maybe
It's,
I do, but maybe if I heard it.
No, wow, okay, huh. Do you like the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Don't really know many of their songs.
Like Californication, Snow, that kind of stuff? Danny California? They like to sing about California a lot.
I know one of those songs, and I guess it's okay. It's definitely a style I would listen to.
Yeah, it's I would say it's always like I'm never upset when one of their songs comes on, but I'm never like, this is my jam.
That's like the Rolling Stones for me. Whenever the Rolling Stones come on like a playlist shuffle that I'm listening to, I'm never like, oh, switch this. I hate it. I always listen to it.
Can You Hear Me Knocking is kind of an obnoxious song. Like I'll skip that one for sure.
Oh, lots of it. Oh my gosh. You should okay. Okay. All right. This is going to be the challenge for everyone this week. You and all of our listeners should listen to John Lennon's song Hold On. It's a really chill song and there's nothing weird about it. Don't worry. It's not really strange.
It's this song isn't really strange.
No.
I'm glad you put that qualifier in there because maybe it's kind of strange.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so do that. Hold On by John Lennon. Just zone out to it. Think about something else while you listen to it.
That's what I usually try to do whenever I listen to John Lennon.
Yeah. But would you like to know what science has to call this thing?
Yeah, sure.
It's in the kingdom Animalia. You know it. You love it. You're in it. It's in the kingdom It's in the phylum. It's in the kingdom phylum.
It's kingdom.
It's in the phylum.
It's a weird kingdom.
Chordata. You're in that as well.
Wait, we missed one.
What is it?
It's Actinopterygii.
Oh yeah, duh.
All fish.
What? I guess Wikipedia
Bony
was
fish.
like, you know it. It's actinopterygii. We don't have to put it.
Wikipedia's like, you know it, you love it, you're probably not in it. It's actinopterygii.
The family is Lepidosirenidae. Did we do something that was in this?
I think the electric eel is in this one.
Okay.
Or
It's a family of
snakehead.
lungfish, yeah.
It might be the snakehead, actually. Because this lungfish, spoiler alert, the lungfish has a lot in common with the bullseye snakehead, which was our 50th episode extravaganza, if you want to go check that out.
That's right. It's in the genus Protopterus. And then the species is Anectens. Protopterus anectens.
Since we're in the business of naming things, it's time for my favorite part of the show, critter groups. The part of the show where I ask you, Joe, or sorry, it's not critter groups. Ah, man, I messed that up. Nitty gritty nomenclature, because it's a fish. We all know what fish are in groups. They're schools. And unfortunately, like the fish community, what is it? Ichthyologists are not as creative with their collective nouns as the ornithologists, the bird watchers, because that's great. Pick a kind of bird, and there's a weird collective noun for it. Just an endless sea of content.
It's almost as if hyper-specific collective nouns are extremely unnecessary.
But they're fun. It's like Pacific Rim, completely unnecessary but fun. It's time for nitty gritty nomenclature. Since we already know that, we were saying that we need to break into
Small groups.
Into small groups and talk about what different fish should be called. So since we know that fish are, the groups of them are schools, then I'm always kind of in this position with fish, but we are life, death, and taxonomy. So let's delve into the taxonomy a little bit. The order is Dipnoi. So I'm going to ask you, what does that mean? So, Joe, does Dipnoi mean double breathing, to walk, that's TWO, walk, long sleep, or eelfish? So A is double breathing, B is to walk, C is long sleep, and D is eelfish.
If it were me, I would name it to walk. But if it's old enough, people would just be like, eelfish, that's what it is. I'm not going to think creatively at all.
But what do you think, like, linguistically, what does dipnoi mean?
No idea. What's the root language? Latin?
Probably Greek.
Yeah. I really should have kept going with my Koine Greek studies. I'm going to walk. Final answer.
And it's incorrect. The answer is double breathing. When they named this, they were surprised by the fact that it's a lungfish. So it's really.
If it was Latin, I would know stuff from knowing medical words. I think that Latin is bi, and Greek is like die. Yeah. Like that for two. So like a diphthong in linguistics is two sounds. But yeah, noi, like what, I don't know what that is. But yeah, double breathing, that's what dipnoi is, and that's the entire order. I think this is the only member of its genus, and the everything in the family Lepidosirenidae, it's all lungfish. So this is characteristic. Yep, characteristic pots. Okay. Would you like to know what it looks like?
I would, a lot.
Well, the West African lungfish is similar to, I wrote similar to a lungfish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is.
That is a true
extremely
statement.
similar. It's
Very true.
similar to a catfish in the way it looks, in the way it's shaped, but it's got this long body shape, and it's even like kind of eel shaped. Hey, it's an eelfish.
Okay.
It's very eelish. It's Billie Eilish.
I feel eelish. How about you?
Its pectoral and anal fins, unfortunate, are long and thin.
That's so sad.
I wish it was something else. Ichthyologists are kind of weirdos, huh?
Are they? I don't know.
We don't know. We have to have.
You're the jock sitting there at the milk drinking mammal table.
we have to have people chime in to tell us what the dynamics are. So they hang down. These fins hang down like spindly little legs, and gracefully caress the of the river. And I almost said sea, but that's not true. They have small eyes and short snouts. They've as far as fish go, they have a aesthetically pleasing face. It's not like a nasty fish face.
I hard disagree on that.
I mean, as far as fish go, I mean, it's
this looks
top of the garbage heap in terms of looks. Poor fish people.
Hey, this is not a swing at fish people. I mean, unless they're literal fish people. But because I'm sure many of them are very attractive. But like the fish themselves, like there are some fish that you could consider cute, and this one's nowhere near that. And that's the only good thing I will say about a fish's face.
Okay, so as far as freshwater fish are usually reminiscent of the pond scum they suck on.
This doesn't eat pond scum. This is a predator.
Anyway, not bad. Like, it's got little beady eyes and a little. Like if you were to draw a child was to draw a fish's face, this was what it would look like.
Okay, so I got a story. I don't know if I've told this on the show before. It has been a little while. But a few years ago, Bibby and I took Julia and Calvin, big supporters of the show, out to the zoo. And Bibby was with Julia, and they were looking at emus. And Bibby said something to the effect of like, "Oh, look how ugly that bird is." And Julia, aghast, was like, "Oh, all of God's creatures are beautiful." And put her in her place. And so our whole conversation about how ugly fish are is probably pretty upsetting. But yes, I wouldn't say all of God's creatures are beautiful, but I would say all of God's creatures are made for a specific purpose.
And that in and of itself, nature is beautiful.
Makes them beautiful
fulfill.
In maybe not a visual aesthetic sense, but beautiful in an ontological sense.
Yeah, yes. That's your word of the day.
Okay, anyway. Sorry to derail.
Anyway, let's talk about how big they are. All fishermen know that the fish size is extremely important. So let's talk about that. Welcome to the Love Measure Up segment, the official listener's favorite part of the show. The part of the show when we present the animal sizes and dimensions in relatable terms through a quiz that's fun for the whole family. It's also part of the show that's introduced by you when you sit in an audio of yourself saying, singing, or chittering the words measure up into ldtaxonomy@gmail.com. We don't have a new measure up intro this week, and we have an absolute boom of listeners. So what are y'all doing?
Send it in. All you have to do is just say measure up into your voice recording, and then there's a little button that says share. You just go over to your email, you type in ldtaxonomy@gmail.com, and then you press send, and you're done. This could take less than 1 minute.
That's right.
Please send us your measure ups. We want to hear your voice, and you'll be featured on the show.
We want to know that you're more than a number on a stat sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are out there listening, I presume.
Unless it's robots.
Are you all robots?
Are you all robots? Maybe we should cater to robots more.
I feel like robots would care significantly less about animals.
No, I mean, they might care about information, raw information, but we can dial down the charm, though. More facts, less charm.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Less charm from here on out, because we're not getting measure ups and we assume you're all robots.
Speaking of listener interaction, Nora again puts the team on her back. She sent us an email that said, I have been making this face for 10 minutes whilst listening to the Green Banded Broodsack episode. Thanks, boys. Good. And the face, she included a picture, and the face does not seem ecstatic to learn interesting facts about the Green Banded Broodsack.
I want to see this face.
It's almost like the facial expression of Amber Heard through the Amber Heard trial, like with the corners of the mouth pointed downward in a frown, as if to say, that thing I just heard is not good to my ears.
She's literally about to say bah humbug. This is a good face. Good face. And it was also my face as I was researching.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I wholeheartedly sympathize.
Yeah. See, not all of God's creatures are pleasing to the aesthetic.
But or pleasing to just the knowledge.
That does not mean they're not valuable. It doesn't mean they're not amazing.
They're just not in my eyeballs, please. Thank you.
So since we didn't have a new measure up intro, let's revisit some of the greatest hits.
Oh wow, there's a new level. The cream of the crop.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to guess this person, because this is a person from Twitter, and you're not the Twitter person.
No, I'm not. But maybe after this takeover, I will be. Who knows?
So, without further ado, the listener's favorite part of the show.
It's time for Measure Up.
So, do you have any idea? So, you guessed where this person was from.
Oh, did I?
Based on the accent.
Was I right?
You were close, but you weren't quite right. This is Natalie Sabin. She is the creator of the Across the Ages podcast, where she teaches you about like stuff from across the ages, like hats and execution methods and stuff like that.
I actually, when she did send that measure up, I listened to a few of her episodes, and it was really interesting.
Yeah. You know, such things as execution and hats.
Yeah. Well, it's like sometimes you just take these things for granted, like executions, and you want to. They're just part of your everyday life.
The hats episode was one of my favorites. Like, what is the historical trajectory of hats?
I once listened to a whole podcast episode. It wasn't this show, but something else on the history of the fedora. Like. Now I know. Well, I'm not very good at actually remembering facts. This is why I have notes for this show. But like, if I was better at remembering facts, I would be able to tell you a whole lot more about the fedora. So hats are interesting.
Yeah,
check it out.
So let's talk length. Thanks again to Natalie. And if you would like to help these people that have put the teams on their backs, please send us a measure up.
Yeah, and check out our podcast.
Yeah. Let's talk length. They're 1 meter, which is 3.3 feet. How many West African lungfish go into the farthest distance a living bull shark has been found from the ocean?
Ooh, I think I know the answer to that. I think it's in like Lake Michigan or something like that.
Well, here's a hint. The bull sharks have been found in the Amazon, the Zambezi, Mississippi, and other rivers and major freshwater waterways around the world.
Yeah, I think it was like as far as Illinois.
As far as the east is from the west.
No, not that far.
Oh, okay.
From the ocean. So yeah, let's just go with Lake Michigan is the one that Chicago sits on, right? Am I wrong?
Think so.
I don't know my Great Lakes very well because I don't live there. Anyway, so let's go from Chicago to the ocean as the crow flies, I assume. Probably east is the closest ocean, the Atlantic. So I'm going to go with 3,000 miles. Who knows? I don't know. I don't, for sure. Which is 15.8 million feet. Divided by 3.3. So my answer is 4.8 million on the dot, which is rare when I do division.
Final
so
answer?
4.8 million. African lungfish end to end would form just a slimy trail from what I assume is Chicago to the Atlantic Ocean.
Final answer.
Yeah.
The correct answer was 3,678,400 lungfish.
That is not a win, but it's darn close.
It's pretty close. A bull shark was found 3,700 kilometers or 2,299 miles away from the ocean in the upper Amazon River.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't even... I thought... Oh, interesting. I guess the Amazon River is one of the long ones.
It is. So, let's talk weight. They're 18 pounds or 8.1 kilograms. So, how many lungfish go into the largest invasive species in the world?
Like, of a single specimen?
Yeah. Not the largest number of them in a place they shouldn't be, but the largest of them. Here's a hint. The largest invasive species comes from Africa, and it's wreaking havoc in South America. Do you know what it is?
Is it a python? I think that sounds like a big like a very big animal.
That might be the longest invasive species, but we're talking weight.
Wow. I don't know what South American animal is a transplant.
I'll give you another hint.
Maybe it's like a tree or something.
We talked about this on the show before. The fact that this animal is invasive in this area. It is not a tree. We're talking animals. There are definitely really big invasive trees.
Oh, goodness.
I'll give you another hint.
I don't remember.
It has to do with Pablo Escobar.
Oh!
Pablo Escobar
I think it's
had
tigers.
A zoo. Pablo Escobar had a zoo in South America. And when he met his untimely demise,
I think it was more timely
or
than
timely
you think.
if you lived in Colombia. Then a lot of his animals escaped, including this one, which was, is not supposed to be there, and it's quite large.
I think it's a tiger.
I guess you just gotta make a guess.
As soon as you say it, I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah," but I have such a bad conversational memory. It's not a hippo because we got a whole thing on hippos being invasive.
Huh?
Like the project to bring hippos to Louisiana, to the American South, in order to eat the invasive lilies that had grown.
That was
there,
an idea. They never did it, right?
Use them for feed. No, yeah, they never did it. Thank heavens. Otherwise, we'd have hyper aggressive giant mammals.
That would be super bad for hippos to be invasive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad enough that we've got like alligators and crocodiles that are
Coexist.
not
Hashtag
they're super
coexist.
deadly but not that aggressive, and then just dial that up to 11 for hippos. I'm going to say this animal is 1,000 pounds. 55 is my answer.
Finally,
55 is my finally answer.
the correct answer is 222.
Oh, so this is like a rhino or something.
It's a hippo.
Is it? I do not remember talking about
There
this.
are hippopotamus in Colombia. There's
Oh, wait. Yes. Now I do.
Remember, there's like about 200 of them.
We talked about their population size expanding.
Yeah.
And by like 2030, we're going to have like 200,000 of them or something like that.
They started culling them, and someone snapped a picture, put that on the internet, and then animal rights people were aghast, and so they stopped doing that. And then they tried to catch and release, like they do with cats. You know, catch them, neuter them, spay them, release them. But that process costs many thousands of dollars when it comes to a hippopotamus. So it's not viable for what is beyond 200 individuals at this point.
Interesting, yeah. Be interesting to see what the future holds for the population of hippos.
No
in South
one
America.
yet has been killed, but a farmer was injured.
Well, that's because there's 200 of them, and Colombia is a relatively big country. And Pablo Escobar's estate was kind of in the middle of nowhere, because you kind of have to be in the middle of nowhere when you have an estate as a fugitive from the law. Anyway.
Yeah, let's talk some fast facts before we get into the major fact.
Sure.
So the West African lungfish is a freshwater fish that lives in the rivers of Guinea, Sierra Leone, and an area known as Sahel. Do you know what this is?
No.
It is the area between the Sahara Desert to the north and the savanna to the south. So if you look at a map of Africa, where you see the green, like where the brown stops and the green begins, that strip is Sahel.
So it's like that Democratic Republic of Congo area, Lower Chad.
It's specifically in the west, mostly, but where the lungfish lives, but Sahel stretches across the continent. So they live partially buried in the muck of riverbeds, and if you look at like a picture of them, it does look like, because they're like fins, like graze the bottom. It looks like they're like standing on spindly little legs. And there's like an illustration of that exact thing. I don't know that they actually use them to like walk on the bottom, like some fish actually do. Use their fins to like kind of run along the bottom. They seem kind of thin and not useful for that, but they do hang down kind of in a funny way. They like to eat mollusks, shrimp, crabs, smaller fish. I guess prawns. If they're not shrimp, they're like crawdads if they're in fresh water, right? Same situation though.
I don't think that they're the same animal, but I think they're related. They're crawdads. You should try to catch crawdads.
But so West African rivers and streams, and living in a strip that is on the desert doesn't seem to make any sense for a fish. Where do fish live? In the desert? Yeah, this one does. So how is that possible, I wonder? But I guess we'll never know.
Yep. So, for you out there in Podcastia, no, yeah, what a great setup. An alley-oop for the slam dunk major fact, which I forgot to name. I even put a dash there for a name, and I didn't put one because I'm not creative.
You should have had Bibby do it.
Yeah, I should have, except I've had literally no time today to do anything. But anyway, so we'll call it the Darth Aestivator. Let's take one of my nicknames and just put that right on the major fact. So the African
Pablo
lungfish,
Aestivator.
Pablo. Oh gosh, the Pablo Escobar exam. So the African lungfish has some interesting survivability traits. The first is their namesake. Like the LDT alum, the snakehead, it has two methods of breathing. So it has gills to filter oxygen out of the water, but it also has a primitive lung to get that sweet, sweet O2 out of the air. This allows it to, and also it covers its body in a thick mucus, which allows it to flop onto land and pull itself from one body of water to the other. But the other trait that it has is even more unique. So it's not totally unique that it has a lung, because again, lots of lungfish, but this particular lungfish, the African one, has to deal with the fact that, you know, it does live in that strip between the Sahara Desert, one of the driest deserts in the world, and the African savanna, which is also not known for lots of rain for large portions of the year. Although there's a great, I think, Planet Earth thing where it just talks about like how the entire ecosystem of the savanna is based around this like flash flood that happens every
Boom
year.
and bust.
It's fascinating. And you know, there's lots of animals that like depend on there being nothing and then there being everything. But a fish, it will not do well if there's no water for any period of time, let alone like several months out of the year. So it needs the African lungfish needs another tool in its tool belt if it's going to survive. The snakehead can flop on land and go to another body of water, but you know, if it's the dry season for several months, there is no other body of water to go to. You can't just latch onto an elephant's rear and hitch a ride to wherever they're going, because you know you're a fish, you'll die before you get there. The African lungfish, to combat this, is one of the few fish that can truly, well, not truly hibernate like a bear hibernates, but it has a version of hibernation called estivation, and this estivation is the fish's natural response to dry conditions. So when it prepares for estivation, it burrows into the ground, and then it will cover itself in this thick mucus, the same mucus that protects them as they do go from one body of water to the other. Is the mucus that they'll use to protect themselves for long periods of time. So they'll stop feeding, and they will slow their body systems down to a crawl. Their metabolism, their circulation, their respiration, even their bowel movements will just almost completely stop. Not completely stop, but basically getting down to the point where the only thing that the fish's body is doing is preventing cell death. And it can stay in this state of torpor, which is this, you know, semi-hibernation state. It can stay in this state for up to 5 years.
Oof.
5 years without food or water. What kind of fish can live for 5 years without food or water? It's crazy enough to think of a fish living for 5 minutes without water. Or I guess most fish can flop around for 5 minutes, but like, you know, after you give them half an hour and they're dead. But this reminds me of our third episode ever, which is the tardigrade, which go listen to it. Actually, man, so many people are listening to our like first 10 episodes and they're so bad. Although, yeah, just listen to it. I guess people are liking it. But the tardigrade will do something similar in order to survive for long periods of time and in crazy conditions. And while the African lungfish can't go to the places that the extreme lengths that the tardigrade does, it is pretty crazy that it can curl up into a ball, cover itself in its own spit, and live for 5 years without food or water. The way that it stops cell death is by slowly digesting the muscle in its tail. Its tail makes up most of its body. It's kind of like a tadpole, if you want another visual description of this guy, where it's just like a body and then just this really long tail, which makes it look like an eel. This is just a place where it can store fat and muscle, and and tap into that the longer that this estivation goes on. So yeah, ultimately it curls up into a ball and eats its own tail for a few years when it gets too dried out, or until favorable conditions come up. And scientists know that these favorable conditions can involve just pouring water on them. So it's just like, waking up anybody who's been knocked out, just throw a bucket of water on them and they'll wake up. And when it does this, it will immediately evacuate its bowels because it's been holding that one for a while. And then it'll feverishly look for something to eat because it's lost a lot of its body mass and muscle tissue, presumably during this estivation period. Though normally, like, if the rain cycle happens the way it usually does, they don't have to do this for years. But sometimes lake beds dry up or river beds dry up, and then they're not restored, so they can stay like this for a while. And I guess eventually they do die if the situation's never fixed. But they have a lot of time to wait it out. And yeah, that's this thing's superpower. It doesn't just breathe air. It can live just in dry ground, covered in mucus. It kind of laminates itself because this mucus dries around it, preserving more moisture on the inside. So, yeah, it's this thing just took itself to Kinko's and laminated itself, which I think is pretty cool. So, good suggestion, Mom.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, that was the African lungfish. So for you out there in Podcastia, curl up into a little ball, coat yourself in your own mucus, and eat your own tail if you have to, like the African lungfish here in Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
Hey Taxonomy Titans, I just want to remind you that we now have a Patreon. Patrons can see full video episodes and get shoutouts on the show. But ultimately, it's a way for you to help us cover some costs and get even better. Still, reviews are the best way to help us grow. So if you haven't left one yet, we'd really love to hear from you. As always, thanks for listening and engaging.
Life, Death, and Taxonomy is my favorite in the world podcast.
The Java Mouse Deer is almost as many listens as the first episode, which is good. More people should listen to the new episodes.